There's a parallel evolution happening between artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. Both are technologies that are actively reconfiguring our world individually and together. My next guest, Tiarne Hawkins, is an AI expert. She can help us understand the breadth of what artificial intelligence can do and how blockchain technology fits into the equation. Tiarne, welcome to the
Hi,
Daily Drop. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. How are you?
You're my favorite person in the AI community, but let's just start at the beginning of the AI community in terms of a definition of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence?
Thanks for asking, Bobby. So, look, in short, the easiest way to think about artificial intelligence is leveraging computers or machines to mimic human problem solving and decision making capabilities. So, essentially, if you think about it, it's anything from self-driving cars to voice applications like Siri, Alexa, where it's mimicking human conversation and decision making to be able to serve us up things like recommendation engines on Netflix or YouTube. They're some of the sort of key examples, but the long and short of it, artificial intelligence can process large amounts of data and be able to come up with insights that the human mind may not be able to at the same speed.
Also, how many people can say artificial intelligence 3 times in a row without stumbling?
Not many by the sounds of it. Artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence.
That's why you are the expert. Okay, but so how pervasive is I'm going to call it AI because that's way easier. How pervasive is AI technology right now? You hear it all the time. I assume this is the kind of thing that's taking over the world, but is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're in the era of what you call narrow artificial intelligence. And some of you might have seen in a lot of action movies, AGI or general artificial intelligence. The very difference between the two is narrow artificial intelligence has the ability to solve one complex problem currently, whereas general artificial intelligence, which is like robots taking over the world, and I'm just joking, it's not, but that's generally the theory that we would be able to process multiple problems at any time across multiple different domains that would supersede human intelligence. So again, we're at the narrow stage of artificial intelligence. We may not, or we may see general artificial intelligence in our lifetime. And there's many geniuses around the world trying to move towards that. Essentially, there's going to be about 85 million jobs replaced in the next couple of years, but 97 million jobs created. And I think it's one of those areas at the moment that's been adapted by a lot of large companies around the world, but also as individuals, we're interacting with AI on a daily basis, whether that's something on your smartphone for predictive text, whether you've got a smart device at home or a self-driving car. All of these applications are using some sort of artificial intelligence to power them on a daily basis. So I would say that it's quite vast and it's spread widely. And I think we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, the biggest adoption of artificial intelligence that's going to change the way we live. And it's going to be an amazing ride.
Okay, so where are we on the adoption curve for AI? So if the future is 100%, where are we now? Are we at 15%, 20%? What do you think?
I think it's really subjective. Adoption could be analyzed in multiple different ways. I would say for the majority of us today that have some sort of smart device or access to technology, we are being influenced by some sort of artificial intelligence. If you watch Netflix or you have some sort of account like that and you're being served up any recommendation movies after watching something that you already enjoyed, that's an example of artificial intelligence. If you're an organization across the majority of industries that we're seeing, they're already thinking about how to adapt AI, whether that's chatbots, digital assistants, and various others. So I would say we're at the very early stages of widely spread adoption, but essentially it's here, and we are definitely seeing each and every single day more use cases, more organizations jumping on the bandwagon to start to think about how they can implement artificial intelligence.
Okay, so it basically sounds like the robots have already taken over the entire world. It's just they're going to take it over more efficiently in the future.
No, we're definitely not seeing that. There's a lot of guardrails in place with artificial intelligence today to help prevent against the world being taken
Well,
over.
let's get to the guardrails in the future, although I don't really believe you, but we got Tiarne Hawkins here for the Daily Drop. Welcome back. The Daily Drop. I've got Tiarne Hawkins here. Okay, so look, I don't know anything about AI, but you know everything, although I do know some stuff about the blockchain. And I do know that the blockchain industry and the AI industry are going to be working together. How much
Yeah.
of that is already happening today?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So if we think about artificial intelligence and what it brings to light, right? At the moment, artificial intelligence can process large amounts of data. And if you think about it, blockchain is a ledger of data, but it's authentic data. And one of the biggest issues for artificial intelligence at the moment is ensuring that the data we're using to train our models is one, authentic, and two, it's mitigating any risk against data biases. So things like skewed outcomes, systemic prejudice, low accuracy rates. Artificial intelligence and blockchain coming together as a superpower actually work very, very well together. We're seeing a lot of different frameworks currently coming to light, which help with explainable artificial intelligence because of the authenticity of the data on blockchain.
Okay, so so is AI refining blockchain data, or is blockchain data refining AI, or is really just they're working together?
Yeah, it's like data integrity, right? If you think about the integrity of the data on the blockchain and the fact that artificial intelligence applications feed off data, it's essentially partnering those two together to help prevent any biases in modeling, any skews in any outputs of that data. The way I think about it is blockchain protects and AI gets better with more data. So coupling them together, you're almost addressing some of the issues that people have with artificial intelligence applications being released by centralized organizations around explainable AI, trustworthy data models, really understanding how that AI application comes up with that output. If you can essentially see the data or the supply chain of that data, it might actually help us ensure that we're building ethical applications.
So one thing that no one's going to know, obviously, is so Tiarne actually helped us here at the Daily Drop. Like she came in multiple times, and we were in development. But every time you've come on, it's been a few times now. I just learned so much. Right? So you just said something so interesting: data integrity, which is so brilliant. And I was like, oh, well, it made me think of FTX immediately. How this is really what the space needs, isn't it? Data integrity financially for crypto.
Yeah, 100%. If we could couple artificial intelligence and blockchain together, which if you think about it, they eradicate each other's problems in some ways or another, and then start to think about how we could pair these applications together to prevent against something that happened with FTX, right? Which is the authenticity of data, being able to build a model that can distribute AI models at scale, and it has that audit trail, so to speak. So pairing blockchain, enhancing data security, ensuring that there's that authenticity behind what we're building, where it's going, and then partnering artificial applications on top could be a really, really good solution to some of these problems.
So what other industries do you think could be the most impacted by AI and blockchain working together?
Yeah, so the first two major industries that come to mind is obviously healthcare and finance. I think at the core of these, you both have data and you have identity at the core, right? So what does that actually mean? Let's say you're a healthcare company or a pharmaceutical company, and you're currently doing some testing for a new drug, and you want to build a machine learning model that will help identify patterns in that clinical trial. The clinical and trial obviously includes multiple different things. You've got multiple participants, which is the identities, and then you've got medical data, which is passing through that trial. Imagine if we could utilize a blockchain ledger to be able to analyze or to be able to store that record, and then AI to be able to analyze that data, therefore giving a accurate output of that clinical trial, which would help in so many different ways when the FDA or any other approving body is being invited to participate in the actual trial of that drug. So there is one clear example where somebody doesn't have the ability to be able to manipulate the data to get the output that they want for something that is going to impact human life.
And I think BlackRock is actually using AI and blockchain together. They've got this thing, Aladdin, and they're taking all the data from the financial organizations, and that is helping everybody to do whatever they're doing. I mean, BlackRock runs the world. Look, let's get into decentralized AI, and we'll do that after the break. We got Tiarne Hawkins here on the Daily Drop. Welcome back to the Daily Drop. I'm here with Tiarne Hawkins. Let's talk about decentralized AI. How does decentralized artificial intelligence work?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. It's a great question. So first of all, decentralized artificial intelligence is one of the hottest topics in AI at the moment, and certainly a bit of a greenfield when we're truly trying to understand and unpack the implications of a decentralized model. But first, before we talk about decentralization, I think it's important that we just skim across what centralized is. Currently, a lot of the models that we interact with are centralized and are controlled by a lot of the large tech companies. What that means is they have the ability to collect data and build models on centralized servers. Decentralized AI, however, refers to moving that intelligence and that learning across different devices and organizations, essentially giving us a different point of view on that data and the ability to decentralize and make local decisions. I'll give you a really clear example. So let's say we're a self-driving car decentralized model, and 4 self-driving cars pull into the same intersection of which a young child unfortunately runs out. At that time, for a centralized model, all of those data points would have to go back to a centralized server and make a decision independently. Whereas in a decentralized version, we could share data across all vehicles at that time, having 4 points of view to then be able to assess the situation and proceed with whichever direction the AI advises. Does that kind of make sense?
It definitely makes sense, but I remember we had a previous discussion talking about checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
So are there checks and balances for the decentralized AI world? Because my understanding was that the centralized AI, it essentially means that you have human beings who can intervene. Decentralized artificial intelligence means there's no human beings intervening.
Correct. There is no human being intervening, so to speak. It's obviously decentralized from a data point of view. Centralized is though centralized by the individual organization and could also be skewed by their point of view. So it's like, which is the better? I'm not sure. If there was a way to be able to create a decentralized system with a human in the loop, again, which is why I'm saying this is a completely green field, that potentially would be able to solve and analyze different problems from different points of view in real time, thus giving us a different solution to that issue with bias or that issue with one centralized organization governing what's right and what's wrong. So to answer your question, there isn't really checks and balances as we speak at the moment, though I'm sure a lot of these models that are being built that people are trying to think about how to scale that. But essentially, there is no controlling or stopping the AI model once it's released because it's decentralized. Let's take generative artificial intelligence, where you could potentially build an image. Let's say an AI bot has the ability to generate its own images, list them as an NFT. It then starts to collect money. That then starts to spiral and it becomes its own entity that could be potentially better and bigger than any of us combined, and nobody would be able to stop it.
So it's really a question of trust, right? I mean, it's sort of like, how do you know what's safer? Is it going to be if the computer sort of does everything on their own, where they could potentially corrupt it, or if a human is sort of involved in the process, but the human could corrupt it, right? You don't really know which has a safer outcome.
And not yet. And I think there's a lot of us banding together to try to solve for some of these bigger issues, because in theory, it's actually a really, really good theory, right? To be able to look at a different problem from multiple points of view and have multiple data points. But the flip side is, how do we remove bad actors, and how do we safeguard ourselves from any of these bad actors being able to build one of these applications that could be widely spread and actually cause more harm? It's something to definitely start to solve for.
The blockchain is interesting because there's a real movement against centralization, which really could be interpreted as a movement against human beings, right? Why do you see that same thing, that same phenomenon is happening in AI?
It's a really good question. I just think there's a lot of unknowns, right? There needs to be more conversations, not more places like this where people can find information. But we need to be bringing different diverse groups of people together from all sorts of walks of life from around the world to start to be able to talk about these topics and problem solve. There's just too much unknown. And I think that over time, we don't have enough confidence in people around us, because there are bad actors that have proven, right, recently, that they're not doing what's best for humanity. They're not doing what's best for each of us around us. So I don't quite know the answer to that yet, other than the fact that I think people feel scared because it's very, very, very unknown and it's moving so quickly.
Welcome back to the Daily Drop. Got my last segment with Tiarne Hawkins. Okay, let's talk about the future, right? So artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, working together. What do you see? What's the future?
Oh, I love this question. So many different directions this can go. I'm going to bring it back to a few of my key examples. The first being healthcare. I'm super excited about data integrity and data authenticity in the healthcare space, especially when we start to think about what that could bring from a patient diagnosis and actually knowing what drugs or what treatments would be suitable for you. The other thing I'm super excited about is the ability to be able to have some sort of digital wallet. So for me, I travel a lot around the world, but I still have a birth certificate that's sitting at home in a rusty old shed. A visa applications, all of these different things, being able to host those on a blockchain and being able to access my own personal data is something that's super, super, super exciting, especially when I just want to be able to apply for a visa application, apply for a bank loan. That centralized repository is definitely something that I'm most excited about. Other areas I think that we're going to see artificial intelligence come to play would be things like smart homes, right? Thinking about how we could have our smart home devices all on the blockchain, which means that everything from your security systems as you turn up to your house, being able to authenticate you, the ability to be able to go in and control all of your own personalized, air conditioning and TV and all of the rest of it. I'm just super excited about bringing authenticity to data and artificial intelligence and what that means for practitioners to be able to build explainable applications that actually impact human life for good. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying. And I learned every time I talk to you, right? But you talk about data integrity and you're mentioning the medical industry, and I immediately thought of Elizabeth Holmes, right?
Yes.
And then you think about crypto, and immediately you think of Sam Bankman-Fried, and you really realize how vitally important data integrity is in these industries.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. It really is. At the end of the day, there are so many bad actors manipulating data. And when you think about it, artificial intelligence is driven and built off data. So if somebody's manipulating that data and feeding bad data, you're getting bad outputs, which has an impact on all sorts of different issues, whether it's authentic data that affects different biases on loan applications, right? Drug discovery, how often do we just trust because something's approved that it's a drug that we could all take? What if we actually knew the clinical trials, we could see the results and make our own opinions based on the outputs of that particular clinical trial? So I just think data authenticity, having things that are explainable, understanding what and how artificial intelligence came up with its result, whether it's a loan application, whether it's, yeah, any of these different use cases, I think is just so exciting.
Okay, but what about risk? Like, what checks and balances would you recommend to manage AI risk?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, first of all, this is a conversation that is being taken up on world stages everywhere. When we think about how we can protect ourselves from risk, we think of things like, can we create ethical councils? Well, first, you have to be able to define ethics, but second, you need to have a diverse ethical council. What goes into explainable AI? Should every AI application be explainable and explain whether or not what the outcomes are of that? Things like legal responsibility, right? We need to start thinking about hard laws and soft laws and accountability for these applications being released. Things like protecting against personal data, right? Is your data being used without your knowledge? All of these type of things are really, really important. And I think the checks and balances that are currently being built and spoken about are around explainable AI, ethical councils, right? Rules, hard rules, soft rules around,
Okay,
authenticity.
Tiarne, I mean, it's just, you know everything. I mean, it's
Sorry.
great. You have to come back. I
Sorry.
appreciate you, and I just respect you so much.
Bye.
Artificial intelligence and blockchain technology are disruptive. Just how disruptive remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: we are a world that is increasingly being controlled by computers. The lines between humanity and technology are blurring exponentially by the second. We'll see you next time on the Daily Drop.